Hi, my name is Mark Russakow, and I am actually on the LegalZoom attorney network. And like many of you, I've been affected by the wildfires. I live in Pasadena, California, and I was evacuated by candlelight at 4 a.m. with my phone blaring. And so I know how terribly dysfunctional this is to be in this environment. And I had some of the same concerns as you, like when I was evacuating my house, is do I have enough insurance? What happens if my house burns down? So the point of today is to kind of just go over a lot of the common questions that I know you have, because I had them. We're going to deal with what to do with damaged or destroyed property, understanding your legal rights, and navigating insurance as a small business owner. The first question that everyone's thinking about is, what happens if my house is damaged or destroyed? What do I do? Do I have to pay my bank? Do I have insurance coverage? How do I make a claim? So if you are in a home that has been destroyed, like completely burned down to the ground, you do owe your mortgage payments. And you're like, well, how could that be? Well, see, the mortgage payments are independent of your insurance loss. Now, as far as your mortgage company, a lot of them are going to have some sympathy. Your house burned down, your displays, although you're required to pay, they will forbear your payments. So I'm sure everyone's going to have this outpouring of sympathy. And Bank of America or Wells Fargo is going to say, don't pay us for 6 months. Now, as nice as that is, they're going to tack that onto your loan. So it's not like a freebie for 6 months. It's pay us later and they'll add some interest. And that's better than having to pay for that and the hotel room and the rental house and all your new clothes and underwear. So that is generally how the mortgage works. Totally different than the loss. So the purpose of insurance is to pay for your loss. That would be the structure and the contents. So what do you do when your house burns down or is damaged? Call your insurance agent, because they know what policy you bought, what insurance carrier you have, and what is actually covered. Most people are covered by basic coverage. They say full coverage. What that means is it pays for the actual cash value of your house, which may not be what it costs to rebuild a brand new house with new appliances and new lights and cool stuff. A lot of people say, I have full coverage. I hear that so often. Full coverage just means they checked off all the boxes. It doesn't mean how much it's going to pay you. So most people do not have enough insurance to cover their entire loss. Now, there are other insurance products that have what are called extended or enhanced coverage, where they'll pay up to 125 or 150% of your actual loss. And there's some remote possibility you bought a very expensive policy that has guaranteed replacement, which means they're going to build you a brand new house, whatever it costs, which is pretty rare. And there's also some nice bells and whistles that you probably want, like rental insurance, rental coverage. Like, I need to live somewhere. Well, how much is that? Again, it depends on what policy you bought and the price. You could be in the Taj Mahal, or you have to go to Motel 6. It really just depends on what your coverage is and what contents are covered. Generally, your basic contents are covered, but there may be limitations on things like valuable art, old jewelry, which no one really thinks about until their house burns down, and there's often limitations on that. So then talk about rebuilding as opposed to just walking away. Now, I'm not encouraging people to walk away, but if you don't have a whole lot of equity in your house and there's no possible way your insurance is going to cover you to rebuild something, a lot of people are just going to walk away and just not pay their mortgage. Now, what does that mean? Well, it will impact your credit, but depending if it's a first mortgage and you don't have any lines of credit, you basically walk away and the bank forecloses on you and you ruin your credit, but you don't have to pay that money back. Although if you receive a lot of money for insurance, they may come after you for those insurance proceeds. But there's going to be a fair number of people just walking away. And so what are the reasons you want to rebuild? Well, you like your neighborhood, you like your services, you've been there forever, then rebuild. But you have to also weigh what the costs are going to be. Some people are going to probably just move to different states or different areas and sell their house to, what used to be their house, to developers for the raw land. One of the cons of it, well, there's going to be a lot of construction. There's going to be a lot of noise. Quite honestly, if you're looking at Palisades or Altadena, there's nothing there. There's like no supermarkets. There's no shops. There's no coffee shops. I know, because I've had to drive like 20 minutes to get to the one remaining store that is not burned down. And you may not like those amenities. Plus, a lot of your friends might have moved away. A lot of schools and libraries and those things have burned down, so it might not be optimal for your children. Another area is replacing important documents. Now, I'm sure you've seen many people say you should have a file cabinet with all your important documents. Most people do not. Until recently, I didn't. I just recently, for some reason, while I was at the store, saw, oh, plastic file cabinets with handles, great. And what I put in there, all my important records, which I did take with me with my evacuation along with my dog. But the good news is almost everything you lose is easily replaceable. So, for example, the deeds to your house, which most people don't even know where they are anyway, are at the county recorder. If you lost your birth certificate, your marriage certificate, even death certificate of people recently deceased you need for estate. If you go online, there's every county, you just go to the county and they'll have what's called a vital records online service. And you click on it as long as you pick the right county and you fill out a pretty short form. And I think it's like $30. And they will send you a replacement original, which is one cost, or you can get replacement copies. I would get a little bit of both. It doesn't hurt. And so those things, marriage certificates are on there, death certificates, birth certificates of children. Same thing for social security cards. One thing that is not as easy to get, which is kind of ironic because I'm a estate litigator, is trust and wills. Those are private documents. If you think about it, you never file them anywhere. So generally what you're going to want to do is call your attorney if you had an attorney prepare it. Many attorneys, like our law firm, we keep those things, even though we say 5 years, we got stuff from 20 years ago, especially with digital backup, and they'll generally have unsigned copies, and all you have to do is re-sign them. If you're fortunate enough to use LegalZoom, and I'm not doing a commercial for them, but I just thought of this, they have a vaulting program where they digitally vault if you bought a LegalZoom trust or will. There are also other non-LegalZoom services where they will vault digitally and even have remote backups so that you can never lose it. Might be a good opportunity to do that. Another area that people are going to be concerned about is how do I get paid for all these bad things that happen to me? Who's responsible? Now, that's an interesting question. So it really depends. I already know that there's a bunch of lawyers out there that are now rebranding themselves as the wildfire lawyers. I know because I'm getting tons and tons of emails from other lawyers like, send me your cases. So here's who they're going to be suing for sure. The utility company, because they generally are the people that get sued and might even go bankrupt over this. That's easy first one they're going to sue. The second entity they're going to sue is the government. They're going to claim that they didn't have enough water, they weren't prepared, they didn't adequately have an evacuation plan, and that is why they lost their property. The next thing is probably going to get sued is the insurance companies for bad faith or negligently or errantly dropping them from coverage, because a lot of them are using aerial drones to look at your property and saying, you're canceled because there's mold on your roof and you have a tree in your front yard, and they just cancel you. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of litigation about that. Potentially Fair Plan, which is the high-risk insurance that exists for when you can't get insurance, but it's so overrun by people being canceled by their normal insurance that it takes months to actually get insurance, which I actually had to deal with. I got canceled and I had no insurance for a month and a half, and I'm a lawyer. Like, how did that happen to me? Very frustrating. So those are the kind of issues that you're going to be dealing with. I don't know what the answers are because a lot of it's going to come down to what a court says. So one of the questions people might be having is, well, how do I get an attorney? Well, there's no shortage of attorneys in the last 3 days that set up websites on how to claim. So generally one of two things are going to happen. People are going to be signing up individually with attorneys who are going to be filing a bunch of individual lawsuits. And then there's also going to be class actions. Now, a class action is pretty cool. You don't have to do anything. You just automatically included that if you live in this area code, let's say Pacific Palisades, and State Farm canceled, I don't know, a bunch of you, or Allstate or Colonial Penn, or I can mention whatever, they're going to say, okay, we're going to sue that insurance company with one representative person that we picked, and you are automatically included to get money. And the other question people say is, well, if I got insurance, do I still get money from the lawsuit? Well, yes and no. You definitely get pain and suffering, emotional distress, and other things that are not related to compensatory damages, which is paying you for the stuff that burned down, like your refrigerator and your bedroom set. There is a possibility that there'll be a double recovery angle where the people that are the Edison or whoever's paying might say, look, you already got 700,000 to rebuild your house. I'm not going to give you another 700 to rebuild your house. How about we give you like an extra bunch of cash to get that Viking stove you ever wanted? I don't know. I know there's a lot of questions out there, but and it's probably going to take a year or two to really understand it, but it doesn't hurt to just sign up with a law firm. So price gouging is another issue we're seeing, and I'm sure you're looking at the news where they're showing people raising their rents 200, 300%. Can't do that. In fact, a lot of people are going to get in trouble for that. So price gouging means that anytime you are charging more than 10% than what you were charging before whatever crisis or earth-shattering thing changed things, aliens landing or whatever. So if you were looking at a place that was renting for $3,000 a month and now they're charging $6,000 a month, that's illegal. There is a new 311 number that you can report price gouging because apparently it's already happening. And that would also apply to things like replacement things like furniture, water, food, clothing, anything in your local area where people are trying to be opportunistic. That is against the law. This would also be for contractors, architects, the cement guy, your gardener. So just keep that in mind in your, daily recovery efforts. So for those small business owners out there, including me, what is covered? Well, it depends. If you're dealing with a building that you are renting, then you will have a lease. And depending on which lease you signed, there's generally a California Association of Realtor lease for small lease and long lease. There's a provision in both of those that talk about total or partial destruction of your property. Most leases will have in there a clause that says if the property has been totally destroyed or unusable for the business purpose, and it will not be repaired within a number of days. I've seen it mostly 180, but I've seen a lot of 90 days or 120. You are relieved of your obligation to the landlord. You can just walk away. Now, if you don't want to walk away, they'll certainly give you a forbearance saying, I'm going to rebuild this in 6 months. You don't have to pay rent for 6 months. But a lot of people are just going to walk away, quite honestly, because they don't have the time and effort and they need to make money. So you do have an out. Again, you need to look at your individual lease. If people did like a back of the napkin lease, which I've seen, well, then there is law saying that if the purpose of your business is frustrated, you can get out of the lease. And hopefully the person with the back of the napkin would understand that. Another big issue for small business owners is, I've drastically had, my place burned down or it was damaged. I'm going to be out of business for 6 months or forever. How do I live? How do I pay for everything? So depending on your insurance policy, again, call your insurance agent. The more robust policies will have business interruption, lost income, inventory replacement. So generally, if you have inventory that needs to be replaced, they're going to want what's called a proof of loss, which is basically a big spreadsheet that you fill out saying, I had, 100 teddy bears at my stuffed animal store, and I had a cash register and had furniture. You have to kind of list what you had and what it was worth in your opinion and how much money you're owed. And generally, the insurance company will give you less than that, but at least as a starting point, because they're going to say, well, those tables have been depreciated. You used to make $10,000 a month at your teddy bear store, stuffed animal store, and they're like, well, how do we know that? So that's when you pull out your tax returns, which again, you can get if they've been destroyed by going online, or you pull out your profit and loss, which they probably won't believe without your tax returns, and show this is what your net profit was. So that can go to lost income or business interruption. Also, there's ongoing things you're paying for, like you might be paying for, if you're a wine shop, the wine refrigerator, and you might be paying for, food prep machines, like you have a lease on your freezer. These are things that still need to be paid, even though your place burned down. So you would make a claim to your business insurance under business interruption to help you pay those costs. And most of the time, they're going to direct you to, the website of your insurance carrier, put in your policy number, and click the forms and fill them out. It's a real big hassle. I'm not trying to make light of it, but it's not as bad as you think. So I know we've covered a lot today, and a lot of it's mind-boggling. I know it's confusing. I know it's hard, but we can provide some help, and that's what we're here for. Again, I've been affected like everyone else. I'm very fortunate that I'm sitting in my house doing this video or seminar, but I know a lot of people I know aren't, and there's going to be a lot of uncertainties out there, but there's help either with LegalZoom or the plenty of attorneys that are going to be on the TV and the radio. And you also can just call your insurance agent, which will probably be the number one way to understand how to solve your problems and how to get paid. Hope you and your family are safe, and hopefully this was helpful for you, because I'm trying to do my best to give back the only way I know how. Thank you. This is Mark Russakow, part of the LegalZoom Attorney Network.